I'm Vance Bastian here with my co-host S.A. Baz Collins for this week's Written on the Edge Season 8, Episode 43 interview. We'll be talking with JC Calciano and talking about his many Steam Room projects and how they come together. So let's get to know our guest. Over his 35-year career, JC has worked in nearly all corners of the entertainment business, from major studio blockbusters, independent features, and reality television to documentaries, music videos, webisodes, and theater. In 2010, JC founded Cinema 175, an entertainment production company under which he produces, writes, and directs projects that predominantly focus on comedy and romance. His first feature film as writer-director was the groundbreaking gay romantic comedy Is It Just Me? Link to our review of that right over here. It was an official selection of over 50 international film festivals. It won several awards and honors, including Audience Choice and Best Picture. This was followed by eCupid, an instant bestseller in the LGBTQ genre, screening at over 60 film festivals and winning 4 Best Picture and Audience Choice awards. JC's third feature film, The 10-Year Plan, played at over 51 international film festivals, winning 10 awards for writing and filmmaking before being adapted into a male-male romance novel. He's also the creator, director, and producer of the world's most popular and longest-running YouTube LGBTQ web series, Steam Room Stories. The Steam Room Stories brand has inspired several spin-off projects, including an award-winning motion picture, a series of novels, and the Steamy Stories podcast. That is the brand we're here to discuss today. JC, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's fun to be here. So thanks.
35 years in the business. When did you start? At the age of 2?
Yes, actually, yeah. I started, I was about 5. It was during kindergarten that
okay.
I had the idea for Steam Room Stories.
It was just you and a bunch of boys out on the playground going, hey, you know?
Exactly. I guess it was right after film school. I went to film school at NYU, and right after film school, I just started working professionally on. I love camp movies, so one of my early films were started with Star Trek V, and then I went from Basket Case to Frankenhooker, and I worked on all these really great campy 80s movies. So that's really kind of how I started, and I just kept working.
Wow.
I love that you said Star Trek 5. I'm going to need a minute to collect myself.
It is kind of the campiest of all the Star Trek.
It is.
And it is one of the most beloved or most be-hated ones. But one of the funny things about Star Trek V, I don't know that a lot of people know this, but when we got the script, the planet, the god planet, is called Shakari. And when they were filming it, they wanted Sean Connery to be the star of the movie. And they named the planet after him, and they call it Shakari, but it's really Sean Connery. So
I love that. My husband is a huge Trek nerd. I will share that with him. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm curious if he knows if that ever was like part of the information in the Star Trek community.
I will get back to you because he would know it if it was. But we're here today to talk about your Steam Room brand and everything that entails. Let's introduce it to our listeners and fans.
Is that my cue to talk about it?
Yeah. So
I thought you were going to run the cue.
We could just stare at each other for a bit.
I mean,
I didn't know if there was a clip going to get
I'll insert the blinking
in,
sound.
I thought I was the Ellen show for a minute, that they were going to just cut to a clip.
You know what? I can do that. I can do
that. Do you want to point us to a favorite one? We will do that.
Yeah. No, I don't even think I have one, but I will tell you about the Steam Room Stories brand. What happened was I was working, I guess I was about 45 years old at the time, and I had been working on shows, TV shows, movies, and for people my whole life as a producer. And then I was 45 years old, and I was like, why am I not doing what I wanted to do when I got in the industry, which was write and direct? And the technology was such 15 years ago, where the video cameras were really good and you could make something look really good. So I said, I'm going to just reach into my pocket with a couple of friends and make a low budget film for as cheap as I possibly can make it and make it look as good as I could possibly make it. So for $40,000, I wrote and directed and ostensibly made Is It Just Me? And I wanted to make a movie because, now luckily we have a lot of really great LGBT media, but 15 years ago we didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And the gay community was either demonized or it was coming out stories. It was a lot of drama, and it wasn't really just happy stories about being gay and in love. So I said to a distributor, I want to make a gay romance that's just two happy people falling in love, like a classic romance. And the distributor, predominant distributor at the time, said, well, it'll never sell. Gay men want to see, if it's not porn, it's camp or it's drama. If it's not one of those three genres, no one wants it. So I said, I don't believe that. So I raised $40,000 and I made the movie Is It Just Me? And we went on the festival circuit, and it was so wonderfully received by the community, saying, thank you for making a film where we could just be in love and be happy. We don't have
Mm-hmm.
happy endings in movies. And that's really what kind of made me realize this really big need for this, because when I was a young person, I didn't have that visualization of two men being happy together. It just wasn't there. That representation didn't exist. So I really wanted to make it exist. And that's when I finished the first movie, Is It Just Me? And then I was like, making another movie right away was a little bit daunting, but YouTube was hot at the time. And I said, well, why don't we I love comedy. Let's just write this like little sequential, 3-minute skits, and I'll put it on YouTube, see if it hits, see if anyone responds. So I got a bench and a shower curtain that looks like a tile. I went to Kmart and bought a shower curtain, that blue striped shower curtain, and I taped it to my wall. And I got 2 coffee tables from IKEA for $20 each. And they sat on these coffee tables, and I put a fog machine between their legs. And I'm like, all right, you're in a steam room. Here's a towel. We're going to film a show called Steam Room Stories. And that was the start of Steam Room Stories. And then on YouTube, people really responded to it, again, because it wasn't about gay or straight. It was just guys who were just enjoying each other, having a good time, and talking about kind of frat boyish sex, but not without any kind of baggage, if that makes sense. So
Mm-hmm.
the show kind of just took off, and the more the more the audience responded in a positive way, saying we like this content, we want this kind of content, this messaging means a lot to us. I just started making more movies, and I knew that was kind of what I wanted to do.
Nice. So what followed after the movies then? Because now there's a lot. There's a podcast, there are novels. What was after the YouTube clips?
Well, the pandemic. So
Oh.
I made 4 movies. I did 250 episodes, and a couple of movies on the side. And then the pandemic hit, and I didn't know what to do with myself. One of my actors from the Steam Room Stories movie that I released in 2019 said to me, I have a really good relationship. I love working with actors, and I usually after the end up, I keep very close connection with the actors and the crew after a movie. One of my actors said, I want to learn how to write, but I don't know where to even begin. But we were all, in the pandemic, locked away. So I said, why don't we do this? You email me 2 or 3 sentences, and I'll add to that story. And then you write 2 or 3 sentences, but try to take it logically, follow the story, but take it in a surprising and interesting way. So for about a month, every day, back and forth, I wrote 2 lines, he wrote 2 lines, and we wrote this real fun little short story. And I realized this is really kind of an enjoyable thing to do to keep myself occupied. And I started writing these short stories for myself, these little short male romance stories. And I wrote about a dozen of them. And then a different actor from the Steam Room Stories series said to me, I want to start I want a voiceover reel. So can I record these for you? And then we'll turn them into a podcast. And I was like, sure, why not? So he recorded them, and I started just putting them out as a podcast. And Steamy Stories just became the short stories I was writing during the pandemic, and then the podcast come from that, and then the compilation of those stories. Because now I had so many stories, I started putting them into books. So the books are a collection of the Steamy stories from the podcast, and the books are called Steam Room Confidential. So now I'm up to volume 6 of Steam Room Confidential.
That's amazing. And what a way to use your time during the pandemic. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah, because literally it was the great yeast shortage of 2020 because everybody was baking and you couldn't find yeast anywhere. So you did something more productive.
Well, I did. I will admit, I did make my own starter because I couldn't find flour or yeast either, and I was panicked. So I went online to figure out how to make a starter. So
there you go.
Nice.
I did same thing.
Nice. So pandemic is over. Government's given us the all clear to start working together again. Where are you going to take the brand?
So Steamy Stories, I've really enjoyed doing the podcast, and now I'm going to spin Steamy Stories into Steamy Stories Plus. Last weekend I just started shooting short romance films, so I'm going to make the podcast into short films and put that on Steamy Stories Plus. I also Steamy Stories are just kind of silly, sexy stories, as my husband refers to them, as kind of like, he refers to my writing as Disney sex, because it gets to a certain point and then I just stop. It's like oh, like to he, and then it doesn't get any steamier.
Fade to black.
Steamy Stories are
or move to candle in the corner,
Yes, we just kind of tilt up. And so in my newsletter I said to the fans, do you like the steamy stories just as they are? Do you like them slightly steamier, or do you just like to get down and dirty filthy? And 100% of my newsletter said, no, down and dirty filthy. That's what we want. Wow. So I think I'm going to just turn up the steam and do steamier stories. So the podcast, the free podcast, will be Steamy Stories, and the Patreon podcast will be Steamier Stories. And I'm going to just supplement it with a little. I'm going to go beyond Disney.
Okay. Well, I just think it's lovely because you get to a point where, this thing will evolve and eventually it'll just be, bitch, the floor is gay lava. That's the culmination. That's where you're going to go.
That's my future.
Well, I was going to ask, is this a new direction that you're comfortable with?
I didn't think I would be, and I was like, oh, I'm not really, when you write kind of sexier content, it's not really me, and it's not really my thing, and I don't know if I could. But I will admit, I took to it like a fish to water. I was like, this is fun. This is really fun. So I'm a little shocked at how much I enjoy making it really. But I also, even when I write sex, it's comedic. I just can't not end in a bad dad joke, or it just has to go into the absurdity. So even my sex is kind of silly sex.
I love it.
Sexy, silly sex.
I love it. Well, and come on, it's one of the goofiest positions we'll ever put our bodies in. So
if you're doing it right,
you're not doing it right. Yeah. All right. So, steamier stories and other Steam Room content coming out in 2024. Where should folks go to find this? What's the best springboard for them to tap into your universe?
My name, I have a URL, jccalciano.com takes you to me. And if you want to learn more about the podcast, steamystoriespodcast.com, and that's really kind of, or steamroomstories.com. One of those three will find its way to me.
And I will let fans know that all three of those had social media links that you can springboard off of. So perfect. Any final words of wisdom?
wisdom. You see, I said that I was on the wisdom scale, and now I would say, yes, my final words of wisdom, since it's a podcast about writing, is just start writing. When I was working, well, in the 80s, when I was working with on Basket Case with the director Frank Henenlotter, and I said to him, I want to be a filmmaker, and that was one of my first films working with him. And I said, what advice could you give a young production assistant who wants to one day be a writer, director? And he said, just start writing, even if you just make it up, the opening line, it'll come to you. You could always change it later. Writing is rewriting anyway. But really the thing is just to get yourself to do it, strip away all that kind of, is it going to be good, or that inhibition, and once you put it on the page, you can always change it, but just get something on the page.
Very nice. Love it. All right, folks, so we'd like to extend a huge thank you to JC Calciano for joining us. JC, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was really fun.
Our pleasure. We at Written on the Edge are proud to introduce you to new media by queer content creators. So if you enjoy learning about new artists or hearing our thoughts on entertainment media, please like and subscribe so you get the alerts for new episodes. Tune in next week for your queer media fix.
Oh, what's that? Closing time. The bums rush in melody, dear.